booklet, and you'll get a chance to see the booklet. Inside that booklet are lesson plans for 6 through 8 as well. Then it's going to, if you get it, it's going to come to you with a foam pad on top of everything. You take the foam pad off, set it aside, and what you're first going to see is a stack of DVDs, videos for Changing Seas, all seasons of Changing Seas. And these that we saw today, this is the the cartoon, right? No? Oh, Coral Reef Adventure, which is the South Seas Pacific Islands, and not Palau, but I forget the island that they were at. One of the take-home lessons here is that you have to talk to the community if you want to scuba dive there. Other places in the world, but you have to do that. Oman. In the Sultanate of Oman, you have to get permission from the Sultan to dive on his reefs or go on his beaches. They belong to him. So.
And in the booklet that comes with this, there's lesson plans that are specific to this.
To each.
But those aren't posted on Discovery Education, are they? Those.
I don't know, but this video is available. The whole thing is on YouTube.
Yeah.
We can't YouTube at school, but we can use Discovery Education at school. So
Okay.
if they were to put them on Discovery, they were put them on Discovery. At our school it is.
Is it just access, like you can't access YouTube in the classroom, or is it like you can't play YouTube videos?
Oh,
No access, it's like locked. Because
If
there's a way to
If I
download.
open the video and
It's
download
blocked?
it at home.
You have no Wi-Fi in the classroom?
No
Wi-Fi, no
turn off my
YouTube.
computer. I can get to school.
At the end called Cartoon C, which is what we played in the beginning, which is a really cute video. But this story it's not written by her, but it's about her and her life and what she's done for environmentalism. Rachel, the author of this is Carol Schlenk.
What's the ISBN number?
I'll give you the
These two
ISBN.
more.
Okay, ISBN is 1880599. Protected, kind of, sort of, not really, not legalized yet, but it's on the track of being legalized so that certain parts of the ocean are protected worldwide. And it's to preserve the environment for future generations.
And how do we see your documentary?
Oh yeah, so it's on, I think, your list of
You
links.
could post it on Ibotta for us.
I could as well. You click on the link and it'll let you watch it. But it's a 10-minute documentary and it won at district level and state level.
Congratulations.
Last.
This one. Here's the. Okay, so we've talked today a little bit about concepts of interconnectivity and the watershed and pollution and runoff. So this is just, some of your students might wonder, I've had students ask me this, like, well, you know, I've never been to the beach, or I've never left anything at the beach while I was there, so how do I impact coral reefs? Like, what does this have to do with me? How do my actions have anything to do with it? I live out west or whatever. So the watershed is a way to conceptualize how everything is connected. Does anybody know what a watershed is? Can anyone define watershed for me?
Well, water's collected
Right, exactly. So a watershed is
on the surface.
basically just a geographic area where all the water runs to a single place. And if Florida's pretty flat, right? But we still have watersheds here. Water still flows. And here on the East Coast, the water's flowing out to the ocean. You go in further west, it's flowing down through the Everglades. But over here where we are, it's going out to the ocean, and so it's going to the coral reefs. And so what this model shows, and you could do this just by talking through it, you can maybe build something like this. The district has a few of these.
The Broward District, you'd have to contact them. There's a way to get this into your classroom, either by having somebody demonstrate it, or I think you might be able to just use it for a while. so it's available. These cost $1,000, believe it or not, that little piece of plastic in the little.
Who would we contact?
Constant Rupert at the water management.
Looks like a great project for your trip to class tonight.
Maybe
And a model of a watershed.
Machine.
And make sure
Does a
right.
undercover work done that for fifth grade, just shaping.
When I was in the Peace Corps, we built things like this, just kind of on the playground out of like dirt, sticks and things. And it would just be a temporary thing. We'd run the, it'd be just a thing we do and then it would be done. Yeah.
Incidentally, all the canals that we have, Fort Lauderdale especially, all the canals that we have, that's part of the watershed.
Yes.
All of that goes into the ocean or goes down into the aquifer. So in the end,
Right.
you know, everything that everything that touches, every drop of water that touches the land, in some ways gets filtered, in some ways it doesn't. Depends on what it is. And
So you can talk to your students about watershed concepts, you can talk about the water cycle and how water moves around, introduce ideas of pollution, and there's lots of different features on this that you can talk about. There's agricultural areas, so when you're talking about agriculture, you can ask, well, what are some things that cause pollution with agriculture? And you use, you want to do it?
To just put it on?
Yeah, so you can say, okay, well, this is the fertilizer, these are the pesticides that are going on, or this is the loose soil from the tilling that happens at agricultural lands. And how do we influence agriculture? I don't live on a farm. Well, we eat food, and so the food that we're choosing to eat, what we're choosing to buy, all has a part of it. Okay, so this is like a home and a high rise. How do we impact in our homes? Again, so we can talk about things we mentioned earlier: fertilizers on our lawns, having non-permeable surfaces, so the water just runs off. At a construction site is what that says there. Cows are over here.
oh, the cow. Okay. We can talk about
This is the agriculture.
the cow.
So you know, farm animals or even pets, you know, the waste just goes on the ground, and then that's eventually going to wash off into our water as well. Construction sites, if they're not managed well, you're tearing up all this dirt and things to build new buildings, and that a lot of that it's loose material that's going to run
Affect
off.
the turbidity of the water.
We have different things here, like there's a wetland here and there's a wetland here. This one doesn't have a lot of vegetation. This one's highly impacted. This one's been kept more natural. So you can talk about the role that vegetation has, maybe in absorbing the water, purifying the water, sending it down into the aquifer. You know, we know here we have the Biscayne Aquifer where we get our water from. We're drawing a lot of water out of that, and when we draw the fresh water out of the aquifer, it allows more salt water to come in. There's no barrier between the ocean and our aquifer. It's the difference in density between the salt water and the fresh water. So the more fresh water we take out, the more salt water comes in, and the further west. So you can see that when you till up the soil, that dirt runs off. When you have loose things here, it runs off. If we were to so this is like underground storage. This is like a septic tank, and then the water gets in there, and that eventually is getting into our groundwater and things as well. Oh, it's not sealable.
The stopper's not in.
The stopper's not.
No, we
Oh,
know.
but there's a.
There's a
Be careful because it's not that big.
So basically, when the water hits it, everything runs into the ocean. So everything has an effect on the ocean, even though you don't know it. Yeah, I don't want to.
All right. So a lot of the lessons in the lesson plan book are really great. They can incorporate a lot of the things that are in the trunk and a lot of the concepts that we've talked about today. I'm going to go over two of them right now: build an ocean and web of life, which are very interrelated. And what's your name? Natalia. Natalia was just talking to me earlier about like some of the videos and how she'll, before she shows them to her students, she'll print out like pictures of the animals that are being talked about in the video, and then as you're going through the video, they can take their picture and put it on the board. Where does this animal live, and who does it interact with, and things like that. And that's essentially kind of what this activity is. Build an ocean. You could create a wall in your classroom or a little area in your classroom board and have them take pages, ideally, that they've colored and learned about each of the different organisms and place them up as they're interrelated. So, yeah, so the idea is to get an example of just basically example organisms from different parts of the reef, starting up at the mangroves and into the seagrass, to get that interconnectivity that these coastal ecosystems are important to the reef as well, and then the different reef animals, the different types of corals, some herbivores, some carnivores that all interact on the reef. And so you can have them, all of these images that I got here are just, Google Images is a great source for just basic things like this. So you can go for some invertebrates, some fish, some plants. Have your students color them, make them look nice, talk about each of them as you're going through it. The seagrass, what lives in seagrass beds, what depends on seagrass, how does the seagrass interact with the coral, filtering nutrients, a lot of invertebrates, a lot of juveniles hang out in the seagrass. Learn about these things, and then they can put it up on the board and kind of create their ocean as you're going through it. And it would be a good thing to do when you're watching the Blue Planet movies or anything else and these things are mentioned to go back to. So some talking points that you could use with this activity, talk about the different requirements of marine organisms. We talked about the corals and the nutrients and the water clarity, what food different organisms eat, the water quality, protection from predators. Make a point about the connection of these other ecosystems to the coral, because one big thing when we're talking about different ecosystems is they're not isolated from one another. We need to talk about the interactions. You can talk about sponges, how sponges keep the water clean, how corals are building up the actual physical space, and what the specific needs of each of the organism is. What is its niche, which is basically everything it needs to survive. So the major takeaway from this is that the coral reef ecosystem is a dynamic and interconnected system with ties to other ocean systems, like our mangroves, like our seagrasses, and even further inland, as we demonstrated with this model. Other things that you can talk about, and this gets a little bit into the next activity, is once you have your ocean sort of built on the wall, then to start taking things off. Well, what happens if we lose all of the sharks out of the system? How would that impact the system? What happens if we develop the coastline and the mangroves are gone now? How does that impact? And have these conversations. You can talk about add things to the system. What if we add an invasive species? What if we add a pollution event? How would that change the structure of this? And different ways that you can add it into different classes. And these are just some ideas from the book. You could make a pretend seagrass bed and put down a meter square and count the seagrass and try to estimate that over a larger area as a math activity. For social studies, you can investigate different areas of the world where reefs are important. You can have a creative writing project where you have this ocean you built now write a story about some of the organisms that are in there. You can learn more about some of those species interactions. Okay, well, what is the interaction that's happening with our little Nemo fish in the anemone? And,
and talk about the relationships.
Right, exactly. The predator-prey relationship, the commensalistic relationships, the mutualism, and all of that. So, and then once you have kind of your ocean built and you have all your pictures and everything, there's another activity you can do, which is web of life. So, you have your students color this, maybe laminate these so they're a little bit more durable, and you can use them to build a food web. And so what you would do, I'm just going to start handing out these pieces of paper, is each student would get their organism. And then we can be creative when we start talking about how these relate to one another. I don't have enough for everybody.
Just give us one, so each table can have one. Yeah. Yeah, that's that.
Okay, so you can make a real complicated web. And then once you have the web sort of established, you've talked about all the different relationships and
Okay, where's the damselfish?
Damsel in distress.
Alright.
and then take from the damselfish over to the shark. Our shark's gonna have a damselfish one.
Shark's time. Okay, you can grab one here. See?
Yeah, take him to the lobster, and take him over to the parrotfish. That shark is hungry.
Yeah, sharks do eat lobsters.
And scuba diving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried her earlier, I didn't like it too much, just put her back out.
Scuba divers can eat sharks too.
Yeah, we could. We can eat their fins.
Okay. So you can make this as crazy as you want, add in some more organisms, get lots of different connections of how all the different organisms are going to influence one another, and then start adding in scenarios that are going to change the web. So for example, let's say that
You
shark
spotted
finning
all of the sharks.
is happening. So the shark's gone. Well, but what was the shark all connected to, and how is that going to relate? So we might have issues with the fish that it ate. You know, what happens when you remove a predator from the system?
You get overpopulation of its prey.
Right, and then how can that influence what's underneath that in the food web?
Reduction of everything else.
Right, and what is the base of the food web?
Algae.
Plants.
Right, our primary producers, right? And so if you increase the population of herbivores, what happens to the plants?
Decrease it.
You reduce those, and then what happens to primary production? That goes down, and then there's just less energy available in the system as a whole. So the predators are really, 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 really important.
It's out of balance.
Yes. Another thing that you can do, another scenario, is you can introduce an exotic organism. So I'm a lionfish, so I'm taking all your cords now.
Nobody.
And I'm taking all the damselfish cords now, you know, because the lionfish keeps the other fish away from there. So
And in 3
look right
days,
now.
there will be 30,000 more lionfish.
yeah.
Every 3 days they spawn.
Wow. Really? Really? They spend.
And they can survive
over
in
100 feet deep too.
That's the real big one.
Yeah, freshwater and saltwater.
And we've taken our shark out of the system already, and that's the only thing which might possibly have eaten the lionfish. So
Are they training
Groupers eat them?
yeah,
They're working on it.
sure.
They do it, little claymen, they do it.
Groupers
They
interested.
do it all, yeah.
That's actually
It's very cool to watch.
So we got to be good to our groupers.